Hi everyone, this is Nidhi from Designhill, your host for the day. I hope you and your family are keeping well and safe. I would like to welcome you all in this wonderful session where we are going to discuss how artificial intelligence can help your business monetize more effectively in the digital economy. Today's event is brought to you by Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike, who can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products created by independent artists. So, moving ahead, let me introduce our guest for today. We have with us Dr. Michael Wu. Dr. Michael Wu is one of the world's premier authorities on artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, and behavioral economics. He's currently the chief AI strategist at PROS, an AI powered software as a service provider that helps companies monetize more efficiently in the digital economy. He's been appointed as a senior research fellow at the École des Ponts Business School for his work in data science. Prior to Cross, Michael was a chief scientist at Lithium for about a decade, where he focused on developing predictive and prescriptive algorithms to extract insights from social media big data. His research spans many areas, including customer experience, CRM, online influence, gamification, digital transformation, AI, etc. His R&D won him the recognition as an influential leader by CRM magazine, along with Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Benioff, and other industry giants. Michael has served as DOE Fellow at the Los Alamos National Lab conducting research in face recognition and was awarded 4 years of full fellowship under the Computational Science Graduate Fellowship. Prior to the industry, Michael received his triple major undergraduate degree in applied math, physics, and molecular and cell biology, and his PhD from UC Berkeley's biophysics program, where he uses machine learning to model visual processing within the human brain. Michael believes in knowledge dissemination and speaks internationally at universities, conferences, and enterprises. His insights have inspired many global enterprises and are made accessible through the Science of Social and the Science of Social 2, two easy reading ebooks. Michael, it's really great to have you here. Please say hi to the audience.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. So, guys, before we start the session, here is a quick update. You can take the screenshot of this event and post it on your Twitter and tag Designhill DH and Michael 8EL Wu. We will also be writing Michael's Twitter handle on the chat so that you can copy paste it from there. One lucky winner will have a chance to win a PS gift card worth $50. Along with that, as a gesture of appreciation that you all could join us for the event, we have some special offers for you. Keep an eye on our chat section to get your offer. Moving ahead, let's quickly look at what Design Hill is all about.
Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When my company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project, I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Designhill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Designhill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton of results I'd love. Start by picking a number of designs that inspire you. This one's good, and that one. This one speaks to me. Then share some information about the project. Lastly, pick a package that fits your budget. Do you just want a logo, or do you want it all? Then, boom. I got more than 60 custom design options to choose from, as well as all the other graphic design assets I wanted. And it's all backed by Designhill's 100% money-back guarantee. If I don't find a design I like, I get my money back. You can't lose. Now I have what I need to make a splash at my meetings, with everything from business cards, pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill.
All right, that was all about Design Hill, and now we are all set to start the session. So, guys, Michael is going to be sharing a presentation to apprise us all of the concepts around AI. Post which we will take up the questions. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the questions tab, and the questions will maximum, of course, will be taken up during the session. Michael, over to you.
Great. So thank you again for the introduction, and it's my pleasure to be here. So today, obviously, I'm going to talk to you about how can you use AI to help you monetize more efficiently and more effectively in the digital economy. And today, there's no excuse, right? Because we're under the influence of the pandemic, so all business are trying to go digital. There's many statistics that shows that digital is the way forward, and we have a bigger digital shift in the last like 3 4 months than the last decade, because people just have no choice but to go on digital. um, so so obviously AI is very important in digital economy. But what is AI anyway? I think the best way to understand AI is through an example. Okay, so is to understand where AI actually come from. So AI actually comes from BI, comes from business intelligence. And so to understand AI, the best way to understand AI is actually understand the history of business intelligence. Okay, so business intelligence, starts with obviously a lot of data. So I'm just going to give you a toy example here, right? So when you have a lot of data, the first thing you do is you probably would just summarize it. Okay, you compute statistics and indicators to summarize all your data, so you could know what the data is doing without actually looking at every single data point. So these are what we call descriptive statistics, descriptive analytics. Okay, descriptive analytics. But once you do this for a while, you start to see patterns, so you could build a model. Now, the model also summarizes the data, but what's the advantage of having a model? Having a model means that you can now extrapolate to regions where you don't have data yet, right? So that means you can now predict and forecast, right? So basically, you start doing what we call, predictive analytics. Now, predictive analytics is great, but what one of the things that you could do is that you can actually go beyond that and go, okay, when you have the eye into the future, you could also tell people what to do, right? If you, for example, in this case, if you're trying to make money from this stock, right, then the good time to buy is here, and a good time to sell is here, right? So now you can start to tell people what to do, right? That's prescriptive analytic, where you actually prescribe actions for people to take in order to achieve some optimal outcome. Okay, so that's prescriptive analytics. Now, so the question is, what's next, right? So that's a very brief history of BI, right? It goes from descriptive to predictive to prescriptive. Now, what's next is really, the beginning of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is really just the automation of decisions and subsequent actions that you need to execute. Okay, if you automate all that, then you had the inception of AI. It's not truly AI yet, but you had the beginning of it, right? So this thing, to illustrate this in picture, if you go from data to decision to action, traditionally that's a human's role, right? Regardless of what the data suggests you, right? The data, you can use descriptive analytic to show you, say how your stock's performing. You could use predictive analytic, and then it will show you how the stock, is going to perform tomorrow or in a month or in the future trajectory. Or you can even use prescriptive analytics to tell you, which stock to buy and sell and when, right? But at the end of the day, you decide what to buy and what to sell, right? You can say, I don't believe this data. I want to keep the stock. I don't want to sell it, right? So human decide what to do at the end, right? But if you have this process, that's automating everything, right? Directly from data to decision to actions, all automated, then you had the inception of AI. Okay. Now, this is not truly AI yet. It's just the inception of it, right? And this is already here, right? Because we have, for example, algorithmic trading, right? Rather than telling me what to buy and what to sell, right? Why not just trade and buy and sell for me, right? If you tell me what to buy and what to sell, right, then I have to go and click the buy button or sell button, right? And that's, if I'm busy, I don't have time, right? That's going to be delay. And when I come back and have time to do it, that may no longer be the optimal sell anymore. It may not be the optimal time to buy or sell anymore, right? So if you know the optimal, right, you should just buy and sell for me, right? So these are algorithmic trading, right? And likewise, automated loan origination, right? So this is rather than having a person check off all the boxes when you meet the criteria, when you meet all the criteria, just give them the loan, right? So I want to give you another example of what a prescriptive analytic system that we are all very familiar with, and that's a GPS navigation system. So GPS, what do they do, right? You tell the GPS where you want to go, right? The GPS navigation system will basically prescribe you a sequence of action to get to where you want to go, right? So it is a prescriptive analytic system, right? So it's telling you what to do to get to where you want to go, right? But why tell you what to do to get to where you want to go? Why not just take you there, right? Directly. So that's the autonomous vehicle, self-driving car, right? So these are systems that are able to automate, decisions and actions that's normally performed by human, right? Okay. So now, obviously, this I would say this autonomous vehicle, it's not legal yet. It's actually, so uh, it's not, I would say, not very smart. Some people actually, get into accident with that. It still happens, right? So the question is, what really makes AI intelligent, right? So if you actually do a little bit of research yourself, you probably will find this figure, right? This that deep learning is a kind of machine learning. Machine learning is a kind of AI, and that's what makes AI smart, right? Because you have deep learning. Deep learning is the big buzzword right now in the community, in the business community, right? So now the the problem with this figure is that, like, it's not really correct. It's not quite correct. Okay. So deep learning is indeed a kind of machine learning, but machine learning is actually not a kind of AI. Okay. Machine learning is actually used in AI. Every AI system today actually has machine learning in it. Okay. So machine learning is really a part of AI. It's not really a kind of AI, right? So I mean, so I think for this reason, this whoever created this figure put machine learning in AI, but it's actually not a kind of AI. Okay. So now I'll give you another example to illustrate what this means. Like V8, this V-shaped 8-cylinder, engine is a kind of engine, and the engine is a part of every car, is used in every car, right? So now, see, if you actually take away these boundary descriptors, right, you may come to the wrong conclusion that an engine is actually a kind of car, right? And that's ridiculous, right? Engine is not a car, right? So if you say machine learning is a kind of AI, that's as ridiculous as saying that an engine is a car. Okay, that's just, it's not quite. This picture is, it's not completely incorrect. Okay, but it needs to be interpreted correctly. Now you know how to interpret it correctly, but it's kind of misleading. Okay, so we should throw this picture away and give you a better picture, right? So the better picture actually start with big data. Now big data is turned into I would say a model, and through machine learning, right? And then basically the people who actually do this is data scientists, right? Okay. So now once you have a model, right? If you feed it with new data, right, it gives you some analytic results, right? And people have to look at those results and decide what to do, right? And then that usually involves some actions, and the actions in the real world have consequences and outcomes, right? And that usually need to be fed back into your system in order for it to work well, right? So as I said before, traditionally humans always make the decision, right? And actions are, I would say today, a lot of the actions in the digital world can already be automated, okay? But in the physical world, a lot of these tasks have to still be carried out by human, right? Feedback is also traditionally collected by human, right? We survey, we do all kinds of ways to collect feedback, right? But that's obviously not very, very fast, right? So in order for the system to work well, this had to happen in very, very quickly, right? In near real time, if the decision need to be made in real time, okay? So first thing we need to do is we need to track this feedback automatically, right? And we could do this already today. We just have to write code, engineers have to write code and instrument it to track it, right? And now if this model here is actually good enough, then we can automate the decision too, right? Because, as I shown you before, that if your model is actually good enough, then you can automate the decision, right? So the question is, like, how do you know if a model is good enough? Right? So the model is good enough when the decision actually, the recommended action and decision matches a human expert pretty much all the time. Okay. So in machine learning and statistics, right, nothing's ever going to be 100%, right? So you always have, some cases where the human disagree with, the machine, and that's fine. That's why there's a little bit of sliver of yellow here. Human could still override, right? But most of the time, you should just automate it, right? And if you are doing this in the digital world, right? Today we are moving into the digital economy now, right? Everything can already be automated, right? In the future, when we have more advanced robotic, right? Even the physical world can be automated too, right? But today, most of the digital world work can be automated. Now, the thing to realize is that this feedback loop here have almost no human interaction, human involvement, except in the rare cases when human disagree with the machine, right? So there's two implications of this. One is that, like, everything can go very, very fast. The second is that, like, everything can be digitized and turned into data. Right? Once everything get turned into data, then these data get feed back into your big data, and then you could go through this machine learning process again and update your model, right? So guess what? Now your model is changed, right? Because your data had changed, right? So your model, do you think this model is going to be a better model than the model before? Obviously, right? Because it has seen more situations, seen more scenarios, right? So basically, you could do this completely automated. Typically that's not a good idea. You want data scientists to oversee this, right? But if you every time you use this system, you get new data, and then you basically through machine learning you get a new model, right? So the model gets better and better every single time you use the system, right? So eventually this model becomes so good that you can model this, decision, action, outcome very, very well. And this is actually what we call the learning loop. The learning loop is actually what makes AI smart. Okay. Now, now we're actually able to define what AI is now. Okay. So, basically, but before I actually define it, I just want to say with the caveat that, the definition of AI actually changes, right? So some people say that AI is whatever a machine can do that they couldn't do before, and there's some truth to that. Okay, so take this definition with a grain of salt, right? But at I would say at this time of human history, right? The way I like to look at AI is it's basically a machine mimicry of certain aspects of human behavior with two very important characteristics. The first one is automation, is the ability to automate decisions and action. And the second one is what I just talked about. It's just learning, okay? The ability to learn and improve its performance with usage. The more you use it, the better it gets at what it's doing. So if you had these system that could do both of these, it's considered AI, okay? So now you know that machine learning is actually not AI. Okay, so so just because you use machine learning just doesn't mean you have AI. Now, I just want to illustrate, this concept of learning is really, really important. Okay, this is Charles Darwin. Darwin basically says that it's not the strongest species that survive, nor not even the smartest one. Okay, that's right. It's one that's actually most adaptable to change. Okay, and guess what? What gives you the ability to adapt is learning, right? If you don't learn, you can't adapt, right? So learning is what gives you that. And I want to give you another example that the power of this learning loop. Okay, so this is, I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen this documentary that, the AlphaGo is able to beat this program is able to beat the world champion in the game of Go, right? So how do you think it's able to do that? Because AlphaGo is a program written by human, right? By and these humans are no better than this grandmaster, right? It's trained with data from other players, but other players are not as good as he is, right? So how can he beat this guy, right? So now this thing is that, like, the speed argument comes in, right? So if you actually let AlphaGo play a human, train AlphaGo to play this game of Go, if it's good enough to play a human, then you can actually make AlphaGo play against AlphaGo itself, right? So eventually, you can actually go faster and faster, right? When you do that, right? When you have AlphaGo playing against a human, you probably take you a few hours to finish, like, a game, right? Like a 3-4 hours to finish a game of Go, right? But when you make AlphaGo play against AlphaGo, they could play, like, I don't thousands of games in a matter of hour, right? You could play like millions of games in a month, and so what that means is that AlphaGo can basically uh, make all the mistake that a human could ever make in their entire lifetime, probably 2 or 3 lifetime, learn from those mistakes and never make those mistakes again. Okay, and that's how he's able to beat this grandmaster champion in the world. Okay, so that's what makes AI so profound, right? So now, so a lot of time when I talk to business, they often ask me, so what can AI? I know this AI is really, really cool, but what can it do for business? Now that's really, I want to say, the wrong question to ask, because now, as long as we have the AI, as long as we had the data to train an AI, then the AI could basically mimic everything that we do, right? So the right question is what can you digitize, right? Because everything that we can digitize fully, right? The key is fully, right? We have to be able to fully digitize everything that we do. Right? If we have a process of 10 steps, right? We digitize 9 steps. Don't expect AI to be able to fill in the last step. But if you digitize all 10 of the steps, right? You could actually use those data to give it to the AI, so it can learn from it, to learn what you and every other human have done in your job, right? In these 10 steps, then it can mimic what you do, right? It's basically a mimicry, right? So it can actually mimic what you do. So the right question is really what data, right? But today we actually live in a world of big data. We have lots and lots of data, right? So there are literally, thousands and thousands of AI application out there. But there's actually four that's really, really important today. The first one is what we call perceptual AI. So perceptual AI is, um, think of them as chatbots and digital assistant, right? So you've seen examples of this in your phone, in your Siri, right, in Google Assistant, Cortana, Alexa, right? All these are actually perceptual AI. So basically, they are some computer vision system or chatbots and digital assistant, right? So their main use cases is in human-computer interaction, because now you could talk to a machine as you would talk to a human, right? You don't need to write code to talk to them, right? So obviously you interact with the machine better, right? So you improve human-computer interaction. Another example that's also very, very familiar is what we call internet AI. So we actually spend a lot of time on the internet, generate lots and lots of data, right? When you feed this data into AI, you can actually figure out what your preference is, what you like and what you don't like, right? And recommend content, product, movies, musics, and every, all the other stuff for you, right? So these are basically recommender system, right? So basically, internet AI sometimes is also called personalization AI. Perceptual AI is sometimes called cognitive AI because they try to mimic the higher cognitive function of a human, such as language, speech, and vision, right? So internet AI is called personalization AI because the biggest applications of internet AI is in personalization, okay, through recommending personalized content, okay? So now autonomous AI is the AI behind the self-driving car, and the biggest application of autonomous AI right now is the self-driving car. I think that in the future this will change. It will probably become more like robotics and autonomous drones and other autonomous system as well, right? So that's the autonomous AI. And the last one is business AI. So business AI, the biggest application there is business decision automation, right? So there are some. So this class of AI is very, very diverse. Okay, you've seen examples here, like from anywhere from fraud detection to algorithmic trading to machine-aided medical diagnosis to drug discovery to machine-aided design, right? So all these are, I would say, business AI. So they basically you basically trying to think of this as a problem that where traditionally you have a human that actually there's a professional, right? They need to make decision about what to do in the business, right? A doctor, for example, need to decide whether you have cancer or not, right? But if you give all this data to the AI can actually mimic what a doctor do, right? It's able to decide. So these are called machine-aided medical diagnosis, right? Fraud detection. Normally you have a expert, fraud, investigator to investigate whether something is a fraud, right? If you give all this data to the AI, it basically mimics these fraud investigators' decision, right? And able to make those decisions, right? So that's essentially what this is, right? So essentially, anything that you could automate in business decision with data that's from experts' opinion decision, that's considered business AI, right? And Pros is also a business AI vendor as well. Okay, and so obviously we can say like, what can these four type of AI do for us, right? So as I said before, there's many, many more AI out there. These are the four major ones, the most important one. So as a result, there's also many, many business impact it can provide, right? So, but there are three that are actually most important. I would say that the first one is improving customer experience, increasing efficiency, and also help you grow revenue. Okay, so these are the three most important thing that AI can actually help you do. Okay, even though there's many, many other ones too, right? So now, so if you want to pick the AI, that's right for you, what would you do? What it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? So if your goal is to improve customer experience, such as deepen engagement, boost your conversion, gain loyalty, right? Which kind of AI would you think would you use? You probably pick perceptual AI or internet AI, right? Because as I said before, if you can interact with machines better, right, through perceptual AI, then obviously you're going to have much better customer experience, right? And internet AI, because it's used mainly used in personalization. If machine can actually know what you like and what you don't like, of course we improve your customer experience as well, right? So now, if your goal is to increase efficiency, right? For example, reducing the cost, right? Raise productivity, increase throughput, right? What kind of AI can help you, right? Well, actually, if you perceptual AI can help you too, right? Because perceptual AI, think of them as digital assistant, right? They can help you do work pretty much anywhere, anywhere you want, right? And this business AI decision, sometimes it's also called decision AI, also help you do that because they actually help you make decisions faster, right? And autonomous AI can help you basically, to some extent, right, automate your physical tasks, right, for you, right, so you don't have to do them, right. So and basically robots don't need to rest, so as a result, they're much more efficient that way, right. And if you want to grow revenue, right, basically, the only way to do that is basically to make better decisions, right. So now, that doesn't mean that I would say that all the other, for example, perceptual AI, internet AI cannot help you grow revenue. In fact, every one of these AI can achieve any one of these results, right? They're just indirect, right? The big dots here represent the most direct impact. Okay, so hopefully this gave you a sense of what AI is and what it can do for your business, and so you can see some examples of how it can help you optimize decisions in your business and actually help you create grow revenue and monetize more efficiently.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Michael, for that amazing presentation. I think a lot of basic concepts about AI are clear now. We also have a lot of questions, but let's take this question from the questions tab, which is asked by Ko. Ko has asked two questions, and he's also one of the very regular attendees in Design Hill webinars. So, Ko is asking. Do you think that AI will eventually circumvent actual thinking and make people dumber and machines smarter?
Well, I think that it's to some extent this already happened, right? Because previously we need to do arithmetics in our in our head, right? I think now we have calculators, so we don't need to do that as much, right? So to some extent, right, machines have always augmented human, right? I mean, traditionally we need physical strength, right? And then but since the industrial revolution, we don't need to have be so strong and muscular, right, in order to do our work to survive, right? So and so to some extent, yeah, it will certain aspects of thinking may be automated, and and but the thing is that our brain is highly adaptable. We actually become smarter in some aspect. We become more empathetical, right? For example, we
Right.
become we better at establishing human connection, human relationship, right? So those are things that are much harder for machine to mimic.
Right. I hope, Ko, that answers your question, and we will take a more questions from the questions tab. Guys, please ask your questions. I actually have a personal question. I mean, it is also a part of the questions that were received from our registrants, and it is one of the most basic questions. At Design Hill, we have. Majority of businesses, they are early age entrepreneurs, and they
Mhm.
are they are startups. They have recently started out. So this was one of the very frequently asked question in the registrants list, that how does one identify and understand that AI is relevant and suitable to a business model, right? Or if it is meant for everyone and everyone can go for it. Do you think there are any specific areas or industries that are more likely to be managed by artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so I think asking about like which industry or which area is again the probably the wrong question to ask. It's where you are able to get the data, right? So now if you have some areas of your business or so obviously whatever area of your business that generates lots of data, right? That's the area that is most suitable for AI because you now have the data to train the AI to mimic what you do in those areas, right? And
Right.
whatever industry that generates lots of data, those industries are going to be the one that actually is going to be most suitable for AI automation because you have the data to train the AI, right? So yeah, I think it's whether you can actually uh, easily capture industry or area of the business where you can easily capture a large amount of data. Those are the ones that's more likely to be automated by AI, right? So in the creative space where such as when you're trying to create some design, that's those are actually very very hard because you need to start measuring what's inside human's head, right? So those data are not easy to come by, right? So those are probably not going to be
Right.
automated
Right.
in the near future.
Right, and that also emphasizes on the fact that how new businesses actually need to, do better of the data. Actually, first collected, be it the initial leads, and the prospecting, and so they need to have that big data that you're talking about to be able to eventually convert into something which will be productive and useful, and which something they can monetize in future. So it's also emphasizes on the importance of data, in general for any business. So,
Yes.
all right, guys. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Michael, for answering that question. We have a lot more to ask you, but before that, let's quickly take a quick break, and we will be right back after this quick break. Guys, you can have a glass of water or something, and then let's keep this interesting conversation going on.
Clarematics is a full-service video agency based around video production. We created a brand that fit our identity at the time, but as we've evolved as a company, we found that that original brand didn't quite fit our aspirations anymore. Finding a partner to rebrand your entire company takes a lot of time and effort. Finding Designhill was an incredible lifeline. Designhill offers a money-back guarantee. If we don't like any of the designs, we get all of our money back. The stuff that we ended up with were well beyond what we had been seeing on other creative services platforms. After creating a simple design brief by answering some questions created by Designhill, we posted, and within a few days, we had over 250 entries. Designhill's platform made it easy to communicate with all of the potential designers. Eventually, we picked a winner. In addition to a logo, our designer also created a letterhead, business cards, and banners for all of our social media platforms. With Designhill's help, we now have a brand that meets our aspirations. We're ready for the future and everything that it's here to bring.
All right, we're back again. Let's continue with the session. Michael, so we talked how, the importance of data in a business and how AI can help business actually help them in the long run in terms of monetizing properly. But tell me one thing that, is it something very expensive to implement? Like I said, that Design Hill's business communities are largely uh, early age entrepreneurs. Is it something very expensive to implement, and it is only meant for businesses with enough investments? So can you please throw some light on the cost effectiveness of AI for a small business?
Yeah, so I think that right now is still probably expensive if you want to have a full AI system. I think the cost will come down. It's just like the cost of computing, right? So basically, it used to be like big corporations have computers before, but now anyone can have computer, right? So things will change, right? So I think that the most expensive part is probably what we call the data acquisition, and accumulation of data, right? So that's probably because that you can't you can't really speed that up, right? So basically, I would advise for if you're a startup or early business, then start collecting data early. Data about your customer, about your processes and everything, right? So and once you have those data, right, you can start having there are lots of AI tool. I think in the future, I would say even tools on your phone, on your personal computer could start. They could be little tiny AIs. They're not like these big gigantic AI systems that will automate lots of things. They could make, like, for example, scheduling. You know, scheduling meeting with people, right, a lot more efficient, right? So little things like that. If you have data to train it, like how when the AI would know, like, when would you like to have meeting, when your people that you like to meet are likely to have time, right? So you will know these patterns that and then start to be able to help you schedule meeting more efficiently and more effectively, right? And these efficiency eventually allow you to be more productive, right? So you actually can start to gain your investment back. And now you can, instead of before you could only meet, like, say 10 people or something like that in a week. Right now you can meet maybe 20, right? So it actually can make your investment worth it, right?
All right. I'm hoping all the business owners are keeping notes of what Michael has been telling us. So, Michael, moving on to the next question, I really want you to explain this in detail because it is again one of the most asked question by our registrants, and rightfully so. So there has been this apprehension amongst people that AI is going to eat away their jobs in future. So is the fear of replacing the human working force by AI valid? Do we need to worry?
So the thing is that, like, I think in the short term, yes, right? But in the long term, no. In fact, in the long term, it actually creates more job. Right? I think that the thing is that I mean, think about this. This have actually happened before. This happened with every single technology that has ever invented, right? I mean, there are lots of jobs that doesn't exist anymore. There's no like, I don't know, horse trolley rider driver anymore, right? Because now we drive cars, right? So I mean, but you know, so the nature of the job actually changes, right? But you may be doing your job completely differently, but you could be still doing the same kind of job, right? So in the short term, I think it will disrupt some job and replace some jobs, right? But in the long term, you actually create a lot more job, right? So I think that like for the I want to illustrate this a little bit with the something that I prepared. So I think that so so this is, so can people see my screen? Yeah. So think about how, say, a salesperson, a sales rep, what do they need to do? They need to, for example, analyze the transactions to figure out what opportunity to pursue, right? Because there's usually, you can't pursue every opportunity. These are B2B sales probably, right? So, and then they need to kind of nurture the prospect, right? Contact them, give them information. And then eventually when they're nurtured to certain stages, they need to set up meetings and eventually travel and go meet them, and then go maybe close a deal or something like that, right? So that's what a salesperson need to do traditionally, right? So but think about this. With AI, instead of the salesperson analyzing this data, right, you could just give the data to an AI, and the AI could basically tell you what opportunity to pursue, right? And you could just decide, yes, I'll pursue them, or no, right? And when you say no, this AI is actually learning what kind of opportunity you like to pursue, and then basically eventually you will be able to recommend opportunity that's so good you pretty much accept everything, right? But then you still need to write email to nurture this opportunity, right? But why stop there? Why not give all your email to the AI, right? And the AI can actually start to maybe write your email for you, right? And then and then you would say, okay, this looks good, send it out, right? And maybe some of them you say, tweak it around a little bit here and there, right? And as you tweak, right, this AI will start to learn your style, who you like to engage in a certain way, right? Maybe the AI will learn that with this particular person, maybe he likes dog, you want to talk about dogs a little bit more, right? So it will learn your habits and how you talk to these people, right? And then eventually it will write the email so good that you pretty much let every one of them go out, right? Then you automate that, right? So you automate these first and second process, right? So, but after you're able to automate this, right, you still need to set up meeting and go meet your prospect, right? So, but why stop there? Why not give your calendar to your AI and let your AI plan the itinerary for you, right? So, and then when you plan the itinerary for you, you say, okay, I like this, so do this and book all this flight, book all this hotel, right? Or you can say, no, I don't like this hotel, I don't like this flight, right? Then when you say no, the AI is actually learning how you like to travel, right? And it basically will learn your travel habits, right? And then eventually you're able to recommend more and more opportunity that's more and more relevant to you for you, right? So now you just have to go meet prospect, right? Think about this. These processes all can be automated because there's data, right? Now, before, if you think of a B2B sales, if you have to research, which opportunity to, to pursue, nurture them and then set a meeting or, schedule everything and then go meet prospect. How many prospects do you think you can meet? You can probably meet like, I don't know, maybe 10 a month, right? But with AI is automating all of this, right? Then he can probably meet 50 or 100, right? So think about the efficiency gain you get, right? So you actually get a lot, by doing it. And today we already have these, tool that actually analyze your transaction and tell you, recommend opportunity for you, detection that recommends opportunity for you, so that it makes your sales much more effective that way. Okay, so that's an example I wanted to just illustrate.
All right. Also, with respect to this particular question only, Ko has something to say in the questions tab. He says, every industrial revolution changes the job mix. What job mix do you foresee coming out of the current AI fourth industrial revolution?
Well, I think a lot, right? So I think that like there are things that we probably could not foresee. There are things uh, did you know that there's actually a profession called the emoji translator now? Because we use so much emoji on our cell phone, right? And each platform actually had different emoji, right? So there are jobs that actually are probably we can never imagine, right? If you tell your, I don't know, I mean, our grandparents or something like that, before it happened, right? That in the future we will have people who actually, design things on their phone and stuff like that. They would say that that's impossible, right? There's no way that can happen, right? So there are things, and if there's a job that's, for example, like you'll be sitting in front of a computer to do designs, right? And they would think that's probably impossible. If you 100 years ago you'd be sitting in front of a computer to do design, they say that's impossible, right? That's and we could send this design halfway across the world, have them build it halfway across the world. They would say that's not possible, right? So there are lots and lots of jobs that were created that's we probably cannot even think of, right? So the future is interesting. It's going to be fun. So,
I hope it's equally secure, and we, as people, also evolve. Like you said, that the people who can adapt themselves to change are the people who survive, in a better way. So,
mhm,
moving ahead, Michael, the next question would be around the user search behavior. How to
mm.
apply artificial intelligence to analyze user search behavior on organizations' website as well as on search engines.
Yeah. So the first thing you do is that you need to collect, people's search data, right? What do people search on, and all that stuff like that. And then for example, you need to identify conversion events, right? A route, and then route it to a human, right? To take care of this person, or because he may be interested in buying something, right? So ideally you want to get the data on what human decide to do, after they've seen this type of search data, right? Then you give this data to the AI. Then the AI will be able to mimic what humans do, right? So it's really really simple, right? This process is that you normally you have something that a human do, right? But then you collect data on what human do, what's the input, what human have seen, and what they decide to do, and then you give this data to AI. The AI is simply trying to mimic that behavior, and that's it, right? So if you have that, then basically you will be able to analyze. I mean, search behavior as well as many other ones as well, right? So anything else in business that you could actually collect data for, and you can actually give it to the AI.
Right. And since we are talking a lot about data, my next question is going to be around that only. So, a lot of things have changed in the pandemic. So I wanted to ask that, how must companies analyze their data in the current pandemic situation, and how different it is than the usual data analysis that an organization does to be able to know what's happening in their environment. I'm sure a lot of things have changed.
Yeah. So obviously, I think history is less relevant. I don't think history is completely irrelevant yet. Like you know, the world hasn't changed completely, right? I mean, we still eat, we still, there's things that are still the same, right? That doesn't change, right? So we still need, to work. We still need, economy. So there are lots of things that are actually still relevant. But it's less relevant now. The pattern of how we work, the pattern of how we, buy food and eat, right? Those maybe change, but so those I would say that the best way for a company, is to basically learn fast. You know, Basically what that means is that you look at shorter amount of history, right? So that you're learning from a more recent history, right? So so that you can actually project, the future from a more recent history, right? Because a longer history may no longer be relevant, right? The long history, more than a year ago, right? They're probably not as relevant, but maybe still somewhat relevant, but less relevant, right? So you need to look at less history. But one problem when you look at less history is that your signal becomes a lot weaker. Okay, so as a result, now you need I would say many more different data sources and need more diverse data sources to increase the strength of your signal in your data, right? So previously you may have only one or two data sources, right? For example, you may look at your web search to be able to identify enough leads for your sales, right? But now because you're looking at such a short history, you may not identify enough lead, right? So not only do you need your web search, you may also need your marketing campaign data. You may also need your social media data. You may need many sources of data to identify enough leads to actually power your to identify enough leads for yourselves, right? So I think that's the thing, right? You need shorter history, but more diverse and more variety of data sources.
All right. So my key takeaway that I'm gonna discuss with my team is to, explore more and more data sources, which are obviously very limited as of now, and we're gonna explore a lot about that. So thank you so much for that insight, Michael. Um, so the next question, it is about cryptocurrency, but we all know that we don't have another 42 hours to discuss cryptocurrency. It is a very large concept in itself. So if you can tell us briefly as to how artificial intelligence will work with cryptocurrency, considering a lot of countries have now legalized it, and a lot of countries are actually thinking to legalize it in future.
Yeah, so I think I think cryptocurrency is one specific applications of a technology called blockchain, right? I think in terms of, yeah, if you ask like how AI is going to be working with cryptocurrency, sure. I mean, you could use it to trade cryptocurrency just as you use AI for in this algorithmic trading, right? So you could use it to do that. But I guess the more important thing is to understand, how can AI actually work with the more general algorithm behind cryptocurrency, and that's blockchain, right? How more it's more important to talk about how AI work with blockchain. So I think there are two important applications that I think is very useful in the future. Is that like you can use blockchain, for example, distribute AI capability to trusted agent, right? So you can make AI capability more available to business, smaller business in the future, right? Because now that whoever on this kind of blockchain, right? Essentially, this crypto, this AI, maybe in the future you have an AI coin, right? You use that to kind of trade for ability to access certain AI, right? So you can use this to distribute AI capability. Another one is to distribute third trusted parties of data, right? That for AI to consume, right? So we all know that data is become more and more important, right? Even for consumers, our own data become very important, right? So how can we distribute our data for parties that we trust, right? To analyze our data. We don't want anybody to have access to our data, but what we want is people to be able to people who we trust be able to get access to our data and analyze and give us something back, right? So I think using blockchain technology, we can actually limit who have access to our data and
Right.
basically do it that way, right? So basically using blockchain with AI to distribute AI capability and distribute to share data with trusted agents, trusted parties.
Right, that's a very detailed question, detailed answer, and thank you so much for that, Michael. So my next question is it is at a macro level. It has to do with the governments of the countries. So how do you think AI can be used for digital transformation that impacts global economic growth at large? I mean, what are the small steps that governments can take to ensure that people are early adopters? Like you also said that we need to adapt ourselves more quickly
Mhm.
to be able to be for AI to do good to us, right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
what are some of the steps that what would you advise the governments of the countries that they can do to ensure people are early adopters?
Yeah, so I think the first and most important is probably education, right? So obviously, you know, there's still a lot of, I would say, misconception about AI, and also I would say fear about AI as well, right? So education actually reduce, enable people to really understand what AI is, right? So hopefully this session, right, in the beginning when I go through that little presentation, give you some more realistic idea of what AI is and what it can actually do for you, right? So by understanding it, people, are less fearful of it, right? I think people often fear what they don't understand, right? So once you understand how it works, right, then you're not as fearful of it, right? So education is one thing. And I think the other thing for government is that I think very often government they want to make sure that everything is actually perfect and applies to everybody before they kind of roll it out. But I think that's really, that will actually hinder this process of adapting to the future, right? So I think it doesn't need to be perfect, right? If a system is not perfect, right, roll it out in small scale, right? It's more important to use the system when they're not perfect, so you get data about it, and you get feedback, and then you could get data about what you need to fix as well, right? So that you can actually improve it and refine it, right? So this learning loop applies to human as well, right? So we need to also go through this learning loop ourselves, right, to get feedback data from the citizens, right, and what's working, what's not working, and then use those data to help us figure out where the system's actually not working, right? And then we can actually refine it that way, right? So deploy small, right? Deploy locally, deploy even if it's not perfect, right? But deploy it anyway to get data and get feedback, right? To fix things, right? Once you fix more, right, then you could deploy to a bigger community, right? And then and then you probably see other type of problem as well, right? So you see a bigger scale problem, and then they will feedback, and then once that happens, you fix it, right? And then you're ready to deploy more. So it's take baby steps, right? I mean, I think that's the key. But the key thing is that like it doesn't have to be perfect, right? The things that like a lot of government is like, oh, this thing doesn't work for one case, then let's not do it, right? If they hurt something really bad, then let's not do it, right? But so we had to kind of, I would say, I'm not saying that if it starts to hurt the community or something, then you should do it, right? We just need to be cognizant about the benefit and cost, right? So if the cost of a wrong decision is not that great, it's not that bad, right? Then you should just deploy it and test it, right? So
Right. And the most important thing that I learned while you were telling us all of this is that to get started and learn on the go, and for the governments also to get started, do surveys, get to know what people feel about AI, and then
mhm,
provide for the problems, the problems at large, and like you said, educate as that you don't have to fear AI, and it is maybe when mobile phones came, there was a huge uh, disturbance, I would say, especially in India, like 20-25 years ago, and then everyone was used to it, used to
right,
mobiles in such a way that they don't. Now it's as equal to breathing. I mean, it was as same as
like
breathing.
air that we
So
breathe, right? So,
right. So yeah, initially, people there are resistant to change, but as long as the benefit can be assimilated at a larger level, and it is good for us, then we definitely should go for it. And I think government should actually take cognizance of this
mhm,
while educating people about AI.
yep,
So thank you so much, Michael. The next question is going to be my last question, and then we will take up questions from the questions tab, and we have a lot of them.
okay,
Um, my, I wanted to understand that someone who is not from AI back. I'm not sure what background someone needs to be from to be able to understand AI. But so someone like me, I'm from commerce background. Can I start learning AI or data science and the related concepts at this age? And if yes, what are some of the AI apps available for public learning? Any resources, platforms that you would recommend for the beginners like me?
yeah. So I would say that like to some extent, right? You anyone can actually learn about AI, right? I mean, I think I have simplified. Certainly follow me on LinkedIn, you know, and actually we're trying to create a YouTube channel that talk about future technology in business, right? So that includes AI, blockchain, quantum computing, so on. So uh, that's to come. So keep an eye out. But I think that it is important to know a little bit about AI, but to overcome your fear, to understand how it works. But it's I don't think it's really necessary to learn enough that you need to, for example, to build AI yourself, right? I don't think that's needed, right? For example, like, do we know everything, what's going on inside a car in order to drive it and to use it effectively to bring us to work, right? We probably don't, right? I think, but I don't know, 100 years ago during this, industrial revolution, right? Maybe people are saying, oh gosh, I really need to understand that this engine and how it actually works, right? So, yeah, to some extent, yes, right? So you could use it better, right? You could learn to use it to gain benefit from it, right? Once you make it like once you're able to utilize it to gain benefit and gain ROI from it, there's really not that much more need, right? To understand it is really to understand what you can use it to help you solve, right? What problem can it solve for you, right? That's the main goal of the learning, right? So, but I think in the future, right, AI will be very, very, specific, right? I mean, I think today you interact with AI, all the time, right? In your phone, right? So you have Siri, you have all these other AIs that I talk about, right? So uh, we don't really need to understand it how it works, right? But we could still get the benefit from it, right? And I think that's what business needs to do, is to be able to know enough about how it works to understand what is actually possible, right? And what's kind of just science fiction, right? So that's more important.
Right. Thank you so much. And Michael mentioned his LinkedIn. My team will be putting up Michael's LinkedIn profile in the chat box. Please go and talk to him about any of the concerns that you might have about AI, about the related concepts, and I'm sure that he will be gracious and kind enough to answer all your queries.
Happy to.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna pick a few questions from the questions tab. I'm gonna start with Bambang Vinarsh. So I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Um, he says that Jack Ma said that only creativity that will be left for mankind and cannot be automated by robot or AI. But if AI can learn from many culture and arts and projecting new chart of creativity, then AI will be everywhere. What would be the new frontier for mankind?
Yeah, so I think that's really not a fair question. I think that like, so uh, the I think AI, to some extent, you can automate some kind of creative, very limited kind of creativity, right? So you could give AI all the art that have all been created and ask it to create similar kind of art, but it's not able to create something they have never seen before, right? And that's what I think humans are very, very good at, right? It's able to we have the ability to create something literally, out of nothing, right? So it's something that's completely novel, completely new, completely a new type of music, new kind of art, new kind of I would say visual design, right? So all that it's I would say truly novel, right? Where AI is simply mimicking what humans have done, right? And create more variety of similar kind of art, right? So if you give them all like impressionism art, right, then it can actually create something that look like impressionism art, but not like I don't know, Picasso style modernism or something, some other thing, right? So I think that's until, I mean, maybe in the far future, when we have things kind of implanted in our brain, and we can actually start to measure and actually get data about what an artist is actually thinking, what's in their head, right?
Right.
Maybe at that time AI could start to mimic the real creative process. But I think it's far from now. I know.
All right, Bambang. I hope that answers your question, and you actually don't have to worry about it a lot. So another question by Rehan Zain: how can AI benefit industrial development field and digital transformation to start at start in reference for maturity level? I know, Michael, you have answered this question in bits and parts, but if you can still, take this question.
So how can you actually? I'm not quite sure what the question is. So
All right. How can AI benefit industrial development field and digital transformation at start in reference for maturity level? Does
okay,
that does Okay, yeah.
yeah. So let me try to answer that. I mean, I think I have it just so obviously like uh, so digital transformation, the first step is really what we call digitization, right? Digital transformation is actually a long process, right? You need to get to essentially reinvent your business in, with all the different digital tools, digital technology, and investment, right? So it changes the course of your business. Where AI can actually help is that in the first part, because AI needs so much data, right? So in
Right.
order to use AI, you have to have data. So you have to digitize, right? So it's a driving force to move you to get you started on digital transformation, right? So in fact, I would say many people would say that digital transformation, the first step of digital transformation is digitization, right?
Right.
And you need digitization to get the data to train the AI, right? So AI is actually kind of in reverse, right? Kind of help you, forces you to digitize your processes so you have the data to train the AI. But but that data can also help in other, I would say, digital transformation initiative as well, right? So that's a driver, right? You could think of it
Right.
as that's how it can help.
Great, Rehem. I hope that answers your question. And with that, I'm going to take the last question for the session, which is by Kimberly Ivan Toro. Um, uh, the question is, if you are analyzing data with AI through social media, social interaction, is there any concern or boundaries in ethical or privacy matters?
Yes, definitely. I think that is actually a big debate in the AI community right now. Okay, where is the
Okay.
ethical privacy boundary right now? And so there's actually this is a big topic, right? I don't think the human race have, I would say, the AI community have resolved this completely yet, right? There's one side of the argument that says that like we need to be focus more on innovation, right? Because AI, you know, it's going to help us solve more problem in the future, right? But there's the other one. So, well, what if it's not start hurting and discriminating, people, right? So then that's not good either, right? So I think that there are, I would say, point solutions, right? Such as, for example, we don't use data that contains, I would say, for example, race, gender type of attributes, right?
Yeah.
So if we don't use this data for the AI, then it's safer, right? So the AI actually would not make any inference based on those data, right? So that doesn't solve the problem completely. I would say that these are point solutions, right? So I think this is there is definitely some ethical boundary and privacy boundary that we have to strictly obey. I strongly believe in that, and I think that ethical and more use of AI, it's not only, I would say, beneficial to the AI or the community, but it's also more beneficial to the greater humanity as well. So I think that's that because it actually takes into more points of consideration, right? So from everyone around the world. So this AI is more encompassing, I would say. The decision that he made is no
Yeah.
longer, I would say, based on such a narrow set of data or something like that, right? So I think these are yeah, obviously things that the AI community is working on it. I'm actually on a lot of debates and conferences discussing this topic as well. And as of now, I don't think we have a I would say a bulletproof solution to this at this point. Yeah.
All right. So we reflected actually on a very important aspect, and thank you so much, Kimberly, for asking this question. Yet, I mean, it was an important question. So, all right, guys, Michael, we are done with the questions, and actually, I hope this this session could go on and on, but we are limited by time here. So this brings us to the end of this wonderful session. This was indeed a value-packed session. There's a lot more that we could have discussed. Unfortunately, we're limited by time here. I hope you guys love this session. If you want to speak to Michael, I'm sure he is available on his LinkedIn page. And like we reflected on one of the very important aspects towards the end. You can attend a lot more events. He keeps doing a lot of events, and he keeps speaking at a lot of universities, and he keeps addressing people in and around AI. So please make your way to his LinkedIn page and please attend all those sessions as well. Once again, I would like to thank Michael for taking out time to be a part of this event. Thank you so much, Michael. Any last thoughts?
Well, I mean, Yeah, I mean, just thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that you learn more about AI and know better about how to leverage it to help your business, and let's all welcome a better future that's in front of us.
Thank you so much, Michael. All right, guys, we have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is a workshop on how to get more leads and revenue from Facebook ads, and we are also giving away certificates for the same. So please attend the session. Uh, Further, if you guys are interested and haven't registered yet, I am putting the link of our event section in the chat. Please go ahead and register for the event. To stay updated with events like these, you can follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can also give us suggestions on the topics you would like us to cover and speakers you want us to host. I am dropping the link of our LinkedIn page link in the chat section again. To watch this session and other wonderful sessions, subscribe to our event section. And you can also make your way to our YouTube channel, the link of which will be put up in the chat section by the team. For all business owners, guys, you have to visit designhill.com to have high quality graphic designs built for your brand today. Also, we have recently launched a DIY creative tool called Designhill Studio. Please go ahead and visit the studio. You can make a lot of creative templates for your business and a lot of other business collaterals, presentations, social media posts, and every possible thing that you can think of. On that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Take care, guys, and stay safe. Thank you so much, Michael, again.
My pleasure.
Bye bye, Michael. Bye.